Welcome to today's M.Y.T.E Podcast episode. Stephanie Pinto joins me today. Stephanie is an emotional intelligence expert, speaker, coach, and Amazon best-selling author of From Chaos to Connection. She's super passionate about helping children and parents thrive, and she's doing incredible work in this space. I know you'll take away some really helpful tips from our conversation today, and I'm excited to share it with you. So let's go. Okay. Hey, everyone. We have Stephanie Pinto here with us today. Welcome to the podcast, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And just your accent, oh, it kills me. I love it.
Oh, really? I'd say exactly the same about you.
I have family in England, but it's
Yeah.
still like it never gets old. I just love how beautiful the way you speak and articulate things. So,
Oh my goodness. And you know what? I'm originally from Essex. So it's lovely to
Mhm.
hear you say that. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I've been so looking forward to speaking to you because I have been following you on social media and looking at what you do. And you're so knowledgeable, and you have your book that you've written, From Chaos to Connection. And everything that you do is so aligned to what we are about at M.Y.T.E. So I'm super excited to just pick your brains and learn what it is that you're doing to help parents and families thrive. So, my first question to you, Stephanie, you've dedicated your career to emotional intelligence for children, for families, for kids. What brought you into it? So, what was the moment or the experience that happened for you that sort of drove you down this path?
Okay, well, there was a few, but I'll just pinpoint one. So before I moved into emotional intelligence, I was a pediatric speech pathologist. So I
Okay.
was familiar working with kids and with families and doing therapy, speech therapy. And I noticed that a lot of the parents were struggling with knowing how to deal with their kids. I will call them big emotions, and
Yes.
what came with those, the challenging behaviors. So the refusal or the defiance or the I don't want to do this. And to be honest, I also struggled because that was before I had kids into when I had my son. And
Okay.
I didn't know how to encourage, or I want to say like get a child to cooperate in a therapy session if they didn't want to, and they would be, you know, not engaged or like frustrated with the task. I didn't know how to deal with emotions and behavior either, basically.
Mm, mm,
So that was the really hard part of my job. And it sounds a bit silly, but I just came across emotional intelligence online.
yeah.
A friend of a friend was posting about it, and it was her work, but in the corporate space. So emotional
Okay.
intelligence for businesses and leaders. And I was like, what is like like why are we talking about emotions? Like weird, because I grew up with those,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
messages.
Yes.
And I don't know, something drew me to it like a magnet. I was, really interested in like understanding about emotions and what they did for us and how they could work for us or against us, and also obviously how that impacted behavior and how people showed up and interacted and treated each other. So I, long story short, I probably did get burnt out as a speech pathologist, and just connected with a couple of people in the emotional intelligence space and realized that it's something that I could actually do
Yeah.
and get paid for doing, and it would be helpful. It would really help people who are struggling. And not a lot of people, if any, I don't think I knew anyone who was doing it specifically for families, like for kids and for parents and things like that. So that was kind of where I fit.
Wow. And how long ago, when was this? How long ago have you been
That was
doing this for?
2019, really.
Right.
So I want to say it's coming up to 6 years now. And I gradually moved into supporting parents,
Yeah.
particularly with their kids' emotions and behavior. And then
Yes.
that kind of morphed into like I do a few different things. I now will work in preschools and schools and work with their staff and educators and teachers, because I like to think in a way, if anyone is living or working with little people, this is where we need to start shifting.
Mm.
Like for the next generation, I think we we start needing to shift how we're dealing with our own emotions and responding to theirs, and all the ripple effects that has. So yeah, it's kind of now it's broadened, but I love it. And yeah, I could do it all day and all night.
That's amazing. And you have two children yourself. So
Yes,
you, I
yes.
know
I have
you
a
have a
boy and a girl.
son. You have a boy and a
Yeah,
girl. And how old are
boy and a
they?
girl. They are 10 and a half. He will remind me 10 and a half. And then almost 8. My daughter will be 8 in a month. So
Oh,
I
amazing.
still think of them as little,
Yeah.
but I know they're not little like toddlers and preschoolers, which is a really challenging time,
Yes.
just for different reasons. But I also know that then the teenage years will be coming, and that will be just a different kettle of fish that we'll have to prepare for. So
Yeah.
yeah, fun times.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. So, from your perspective, how do you see childhood development changing today? And what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that kids are facing? So I know you said it's not just early years that you're working with. You're going into schools for children of all ages, are you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wonder what the biggest what you see, the biggest challenges that these kids are facing and how we can help them, which I know is all in your book, but how we can help them to thrive.
Okay, so many challenges. I'm not going to pick apart all the social media, because we all know that that's a real challenge for especially the tween and teenage kids.
Mm,
Also just screen time and being on a device, which is such an easy, it's, for a lot of people, it's really easy to access at home, being on a device and on a screen, and that has its own challenges with attention and relationships and things like that. So there's
mm,
that kettle of fish. I think also school, even just this morning as I woke up, I shouldn't have checked my phone straight away, but I'm just in that rut.
mm,
And I see messages and posts and things like that. And actually from a beautiful person in the UK, she had posted about the real stress that and massive load that is placed on kids at school in the really young years, like at 6 years old,
mm.
having long school days, so much academics packed in, homework afterwards. This is 30% of your grade. And so you need to, like, it's just, we've really, I want to say, lost sight of, I think, how kids can be educated and how they can learn.
Mm,
And we've gone down the path of academics and testing and
mm, mm.
pressure, and more is better. More school is better. If they're
Yeah,
struggling, get them a tutor after school. It's,
yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot I could, and I don't even know, that's not my specific wheelhouse. I'm just looking from the outside in going, wow, there are a lot of kids who are stressed. There are a lot of kids who are experiencing school refusal, or what we kind of term school can't.
yeah,
And there's just, I'm hearing it from all over, from the US, from here in Australia, from the UK, from other places as well. And so all of that aside, I think that another big challenge that is at least maybe a little bit more in our control is that our kids are not learning how to deal with their emotions.
yes,
We're
yeah,
teaching them inadvertently to suppress them and squash them and put them away and sweep them under the rug,
yeah,
because we were never taught how to deal with ours.
yeah,
So our kids are bubbling along with stress, because everyone experiences stress, and our kids are stressed with school and other constraints. But I just think that that a big challenge for kids is, I feel a certain way and I'm not supposed to show it. I'm supposed to be happy and calm and do my work and tick the boxes. And if I step a toe out of line, then I'm told I'm dramatic or emotional or ridiculous. I heard that a lot as a kid. You're being
mm,
ridiculous. And I was, oh.
mm,
So I learned to be a very good girl. And
yeah,
that had its own, real dangerous, unhealthy outcomes, I should say, which I talk a little bit about on my platforms.
mm,
But I just think, gosh, these kids, we don't want them to be cool, calm, collected, happy, robots, compliant all the time. Like, they're supposed to have emotions. They're supposed to be unhappy about things and be mad and not know how to deal with that. Like, these
mm.
emotions are complex. And, I think most of us adults don't really handle our emotions very well at the
No,
best of
this is
times.
the issue, isn't it? Because it's such a big fish. Where do we even start? Where do we
Mm.
even start in trying to, it's a case, I suppose, of changing the system to a certain degree, but also
Mm.
unpicking every single thing that the majority of us have learned and
Yep,
believe, um, because what we're doing and how we're acting and how, we're performing impacts our families.
absolutely.
We're teaching them lessons we don't even realize we're teaching them, lessons we don't want them to adopt, right?
I know. And we don't realize that. You're so right, Emma. I think we're teaching them lessons that we don't even realize. Like we're unwittingly kind of modeling and passing on. If we're frustrated, if someone's not listening to us, which is usually our kids, if someone
Mm,
isn't listening to you, you force them, you threaten
mm,
them, you say,
mm,
if you don't get in the bath or if you don't do your homework, you're not going out tonight, or,
mm,
you won't get dessert or no more iPad. Like it's just so ingrained. It kind of sounds normal when I say
mm.
it, but like in essence, if a child is not, or if someone isn't listening to us or doing what we want them to do, if they're not bending to our will,
Yeah,
we use whatever tool we can, which
yeah,
can be emotional, a threat,
yeah.
or a punishment, or it could be taking something off them, or to,
Mm,
in the worst case, it could be hitting them and smacking them,
mm,
and, physical aggression. I'm like, oh my God. I
mm,
realized at some point, because to be honest, and I've talked about this, like we smacked our oldest because
mm,
we did not know any better. He
mm,
was like 1, 2, 3 years old, and that was before we learned about emotional
mm,
intelligence, and
mm,
different ways to do things.
mm,
So we had no idea. And we were
mm.
passing that on, and we were thinking, why is he hitting when he's mad? Or, when he's not getting
Yes,
what he wants, why is he hitting? And why is he, oh my goodness, we just, it starts to open your eyes. And then we go,
yes,
oh, there's so much that we're passing on just because this was the way that we were raised.
yes,
And, it's not actually, it's not nice. No one likes doing it. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't bring us closer together in the relationship, the parent and the child. And it actually isn't teaching them what we want them to learn.
mm,
We're not teaching them any skills like communication and conflict resolution and problem
mm,
solving.
mm,
And that's why I think if we're relearning or unlearning these lessons for
mm,
ourselves,
mm,
like I did, and like I'm trying to help people to do,
mm.
yes, there's a bit of a gap in the middle where we're like, well, then what do I do instead?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
this isn't working. And then it's the conversation around, well, what do you deem to be as like working? Because if you want
yes,
immediate obedience and compliance, you're not going to get that with a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old or even a 10-year-old. You have to take, this is the long road. Like we have to do the nitty gritty of the conversation and the discussion and the problem solving and the, helping them take a perspective. And anyway, so yes, I think this applies. This is why I think it applies to parents. It applies to teachers as well in the classroom,
yeah,
because all of us are in some way like shaping
yeah,
our kids' mindset and
yeah,
the way that they deal with problems, and problematic emotions, if we call them that.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I hear you loud and clear. And I think the thing is, it's like, I feel like we need to all slow down a bit, don't we? It's just having that pause and just slowing down. And I suppose the issue everyone has at the minute is everything is speeding up. Everything's so fast. So it's always like, let's quickly do this, let's quickly do that. You're on from going from one thing to the next. It's all super
Yeah.
quick. But actually it's a case of slowing down. And then I think sometimes the more we slow down and we can create that pause between response, like a trigger and then a response, that's where the power lies, doesn't it, really? Because that's where we're able to sort of go, okay, let's reflect, let's think about how this is, what the action's going to be, what my action's going to be. Um,
I love that you said that. And I don't
yeah,
I don't want to cut you off, but I just
yeah,
did.
go for it. No, go for it.
Because you just made such a good point that if we are able to slow down, which is
Mm,
so against our whole like
mm,
way of being and our whole culture and everything,
mm,
if we can slow down, and you mentioned that pause like between stimulus and response. So our
mm,
child says something hurtful or rude, or we ask
mm,
them to do something, that we think is simple, go get your shoes or something. And then they bite back, or they are, not disrespectful. We have this like urgency in the moment, and we get
mm,
triggered, and we think we need to nip it in the bud. Like, you cannot talk to me. I can't let you talk to me like that. That's rude. You need to learn. If I don't, discipline you, then you're going to turn out to be a, fill in the blank kind of kid. But if if I rewind, nothing good happens in the heat of the moment, right? We usually snap back with something sometimes that we would usually never say or do. We might yell at them, or we might call them, a name or something like that, or we might, we lash out basically. But by giving ourselves the ability to slow down and almost like draw out the moment, it gives ourselves time to think.
Yes.
Like, why, my child usually isn't like that, or I've just asked them to do something simple, put the cutlery in the drawer, or, you know what I mean? It gives us time to kind of process.
Yeah.
And for our logical brain maybe to switch back online, because we just maybe got taken over by our emotional brain.
Yes. Yes.
And so then we have the space to think more clearly, more logically and rationally. And we have a thoughtful response of, hey, buddy, what's up? I usually you're okay, something going on, or what happened there? Or, oh gosh, you got your cranky boots on, take them off. Like something for us to say that is actually helpful, that benefits the situation, in the moment, rather than basically adding fuel to the fire, which we usually do a lot, because we take it the wrong way, we bite back, we think we have to have power. And so I like that you kind of mentioned that gap, that pause between when something happens, and this could be in the workplace, or with your in-laws, something happens, there is a space, and then we can choose our response. This is like the deep emotional intelligence stuff, which I love. I'm glad you brought it up.
Go for it.
But most of us almost, we don't even notice the gap happens, because we just go straight back, or our mind goes and we kind of spiral. So that's a really and if people think, well, how do I do that? Because I'm so used to just reacting. A saying that we say a lot in the emotional intelligence world is respond, not react. So we can choose to create a more thoughtful and intentional response that is maybe going to help the situation, or maybe going to help us pull back or take some time. If someone's asked you to do something and you usually say yes, you're a people pleaser, like I was and still am sometimes. I have to elongate that gap and just build the pause and be able to say, you know what? Thank you for asking me. Let me have a think about that. Next week is a little bit busy, or I'm not sure if I can. Let me get back to you by this afternoon. I'm buying myself time. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. Buy yourself time before you react. And then you'll find that you have that brain space to go, do I really want to do this? Can I really have time? Do I have time for it? Why is my child speaking to me like that? Or why did my husband, make that comment? Most of the time I get to the point where I'm like, oh, it's nothing to do with me. He's had a long day, or I know that he's got this going on in the background under his iceberg kind of thing. Or my kids are, tired and hungry and this and that. It's nothing to do with me. So anyway, I went on and on about that, but I think
do you know
that's
what? I love that. And I love what you said, Stephanie. Buy yourself time before you react. That is gold. And we've all got the ability to do that. We have that in our power, don't we? We just need to because I'm one to sort of just say something. It just sort of comes out and I think, oh God, I shouldn't have said that. And then I've got the guilt of saying something that I've said, that I'm going around with that horrible emotion of guilt, for 2 or 3 days later, that's, going over and over, the thoughts going over and over in my mind. So actually it benefits all of us, because then we're not being triggered and, responding in a way that's detrimental to ourselves and everybody else. And everyone feels so much better. It's that self-awareness, isn't it? It builds self-awareness, having that pause.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of the first pillar, maybe, of emotional intelligence is self-awareness. And you mentioned, the feelings of guilt later when we do show up in a way that we don't like or we regret. Even then, the self-awareness for us to go, oh, why did I say that thing? Or, I feel so terrible. I yelled at my kids. Or why did I agree to that at work? I don't have the time, I need to stop doing that. And then we get resentful. There's self-awareness to go, look how I'm like recognizing how we're feeling. It's not
Mm.
just bad. Be a bit more specific. It's disappointed. It's upset. It's angry. It's frustrated. It's confused. It's, hurt, whatever it is.
Mm.
If we have the self-awareness to like pinpoint how we're feeling and why we're feeling that way,
Mm.
we kind of realize most of the time, it's about us and that we have not had a handle on our emotions. It's not to do with the other person. We needed, I struggled to set boundaries and I found it really hard to say no, or,
Mm.
that's it just helps me with that self-awareness going, there's something that I can change. Like
Mm.
I've got the ability. You can only change yourself, not other people. We hear that all the time, at least I do. But
Mm.
it's so powerful to think, I've got this capacity to, now that I know this is a bloody habit of mine, oh
Mm.
my gosh, like I'm going to
Mm.
stop doing that, because it feel the guilt, the
Mm.
frustration, the resentment, or the
Mm.
anger that it causes every time I see my in-laws or my neighbors or
Mm.
whoever it is.
Mm.
We have the power to change that.
Mm.
Not them. Like they're
Mm.
going to stay how they are.
Mm. Yeah.
But we can kind of recognize those emotions and learn from them, and then make a different choice next time.
Yeah.
Your in-laws are coming over for dinner and you're like, oh God, every time I feel so, inferior, or my
Mm.
mother-in-law snaps and makes a comment, I don't know, or my neighbor, every time I see him over the fence. Well, most of the time, unless they kind of pop out of nowhere, which does happen, you
Yeah.
can anticipate.
What's
Like
coming?
sometimes I'm in the car and I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I'm going to this meeting. I go into my shell. I don't speak up. I give myself a bit of a pep talk. Like I'm reminding myself I have power in the pause.
Yeah.
I can change how I show up. I
Nice.
have that choice. And I can really make a difference so that I'm not just repeating these loops and these patterns.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That is so, and talking about loops and patterns, what are some of the key habits or practices that you think are most important for supporting kids when it comes to their emotions or their mental, emotional well-being, their thoughts and their feelings? Are there any practices? So, because we have our Mighty Toolkit, which consists of
mhm.
4 tools. We have our breathe tool, our feel tool, our think tool, and our move tool. And they're all practices that we encourage children to do in the moment. And we keep it really simple. That's why we say breathe, feel, think, and move. But they're all practices we encourage them to do in the moment, which helps them to pause, basically. It helps them to pause, calm their autonomic nervous system, move out of sympathetic, or just move out of that fight or flight and just respond in a more positive way, I suppose, rather than triggered and lash out. Are there practices or habits that you encourage children, families to do that would support anybody listening to this if their children are struggling with big emotions?
Okay, I love this. And I love the breathe, think, feel, move. How
Yeah,
good is that?
yeah.
That is so cool. That is so powerful for kids to learn, like just such a simple framework.
Mm. We wanted to
Okay,
keep it super
so
simple.
yeah, you know what? Simple is the key. And so I don't know if mine are as simple, but here we go. Just a few off the top of my head.
Yeah.
One of them is when I notice my kids are getting frustrated or stressed, I will call that out, but non-judgmentally. Like I'll go and validate and acknowledge that they're
Mm.
feeling a certain way. So even that, I know that sounds like a little bit like wishy-washy or fluffy, but I'm like, most of the time I would say, what's wrong? Stop being so silly. Share it, or, give her a turn. Basically, I would like shut it down and invalidate that something was wrong, or that they were upset and that they needed help. And I would be like, it's fine. You're okay. Get up. It was just a scratch.
Yeah.
So that shift, like I know
Yeah.
it sounds silly, but oh my
Yeah.
God, like that's huge for us to, and again, it comes from our habits and probably how we were raised.
Yeah.
Everything is fine. We're all fine. But actually it's okay to just say, you're upset, or you look frustrated, or,
Yeah.
do you need some help? It does kind of mean you're like entering the forest of of emotion,
Yeah.
and well, she did this and he said that, but you
Yeah.
didn't see that she started it. Like it is so much easier. I will totally admit it's so much easier and quicker to
Just
and more convenient to
to
be like,
just
I don't care. Yeah, shut it down. No
mm.
one has the toy. Give it to me. It's going away. Or I
Mm.
don't care. Do your homework. Hurry up. Otherwise you won't have dinner. Like it's so quick and easy to do that.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I had my husband on my podcast once, and he said, this is the longer, more like involved way. He
Mm.
admitted that. And he goes, but it is super effective, was his words.
Brilliant.
Super effective to talk to our kids about their emotions, because we're finding now that next time it happens, sometimes, next time it happens, they actually can voice to the other person how they're feeling, or they come and ask us for help. They don't just like lash out and,
Yeah.
continue those patterns. Anyway, so that would be one, just validating the emotions and the experience. And something that I say a lot that goes with that is that the other person's, if you're in an interaction with someone, the other person's emotions and experience are as true for them as yours are for you.
That's
So
brilliant.
I might be rushing off to work, and that's really important, and I can't be late and whatever. But my child having their, emotions about the thing that they can't find that they need for school that day, man, how many times am I like, it doesn't matter. It's a thing for news. Just talk about your weekend.
Mm.
Like I really have to shift my lens or my belief that what you're going through, even though you are, 7 or 10, that's as important as me. And let's see if we can work on it, or fix it or whatever. So that kind of that's the first thing. The second thing is I try to actively kind of teach my kids about negotiation and resolving conflict, or working through conflict, like problem solving. I often say there's always a way to solve a problem. And I've even heard my kids say it back to me and back to each other.
Oh,
There's always a way to solve a problem, which just means I've
brilliant.
said it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But it also
Yeah.
it's that growth mindset of like, I'm not getting what I want, or you're not listening to me, or I can't do this thing. And that kind of voice going, well, there's something I can do. I'm sure I can solve this problem
Mm.
with a person. She's not letting me share, go on the trampoline, and I want to go on. You know, there's some way I can negotiate and make it fair. Or, this computer, I'm trying to beat this level and I keep dying, and I'm going to throw the keyboard out the window.
Yeah.
There's something I can do. We can solve the problem. What do you want to do? Do you want to have a break? Do you want to, restart the whole level? Do you want to, whatever? So I think teaching this stuff has to be taught, because kids with their underdeveloped brain, and especially that frontal lobe where there is the problem solving and the conflict resolution and the emotional regulation and the perspective taking and the impulse control,
Mm.
like they are way, I want to say they're behind the eight ball kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
They're on the back foot, and they're doing the best they can with the brain that they have. And it's a
Yes.
pretty undeveloped brain. And so no wonder they argue, and no wonder they melt down over a tiny thing. And it's up to us to,
Mm.
this isn't my words, I can't remember where I heard it, I'm going to have to find it, but it's up to us to lend them our frontal lobe so that they can get through those challenging times. We have to lend them our knowledge of resolving conflict, being
Mm.
fair, negotiating,
Mm.
compromising, listening to one another. Like, even those, they sound like big words, but I'm talking to my kids, and I have for a few years, about compromise and
Mm.
negotiate. And
Mm.
I'm like, why don't we teach kids this stuff now that they'll need when
Later
they're in
on.
their 30s, 40s, and 50s and beyond? Like, a lot of us, at this age, don't really do those things very well, um in relationships, in the workplace, everything. So I'm like, okay, let's do it now, bit by bit. It's not going to be great. It's going to, crumble some days, and we'll just throw our hands in the air, and but yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, and those words you say, like, there is always a way to solve a problem. If you're saying those words, like with every words that we speak repeatedly over and over and over again, we know we start to that they become our beliefs, right? So if we think
Yeah.
we aren't able and we tell ourselves we aren't able, we're not going to be able. So
Yeah.
that I love. There's always a way to solve a problem, and then that's problem solving. Um, Another question that I have for you. You've got your Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids Facebook group, which is actually how I found you. So I found you on Facebook. I joined the group. I was watching everything that you were doing. You were adding so much value in that group. Um, and then I went over and explored your site and looked at all of the things that you've been doing. So can you tell us a bit about your group?
Oh, thank you. I would love that. So yeah, the group is called Let's Raise Emotionally Intelligent Kids. It also started in 2019 in like the September, and I invited my friends and family. I had like 10 members. I was like, woohoo.
Yeah.
And it just grew because I kept posting about almost little like thoughts or ideas or tips,
Mm.
little nuggets that I had learned. And I was like, wow, that's really, respond, react. Oh my God, that applies to everything. So I would post about it. So it's kind of little tips or ideas or stories. It's just posts, it's just content. Sometimes I get people just commenting, wow, I really needed to hear that today.
Yes.
And that is awesome because I'm like, me too,
Yeah.
some days. We do have people who are posting, their challenges and their struggles with their kids and their emotions and behavior. And so they'll post themselves under their name or under the anonymous function, which is really cool. And loads of people will jump on and put their ideas and their 2 cents and their suggestions. And that's really great. And here and there, I'll post about if I've got a course coming up or a class or something that I run. And it just gives people the opportunity to jump in and see, learn a bit deeper. But most of the time people are there to just have that little daily nugget of like a reminder, or they're there to get some help and support, and other parents will do that. And it's literally taken on a life of its own. It's so big now. It's still a public group. And if I tell you a funny story, one of the reasons we were hovering around, think it was around 5,000 members. And so I was like, oh, one day, hopefully it will just grow. Maybe it will reach like 6,000 or 10. Wouldn't that be amazing? And I posted, I'll see if I can remember it because I actually just put this quote in a presentation that I'm doing in a preschool tomorrow night. And I just made it into a quote because it resonated with me, and I posted it. And I'll tell you what the quote is in a second. And it somehow got picked up by Janet Lansbury, who is in the US, but she's a huge parent advocate, like big name in the parenting space. And she shared it on her page and tagged me. Actually, initially she said, who's this educator, Stephanie Pinto? Can someone tag her? And a friend of mine was like, Steph, Janet Lansbury just shared your post. And I was like, what? I died. And so someone tagged me, and then I think tagged my group. And then it was like this, like I don't know, the heavens opened up, like people were just flooding into the group and joining left, right, and center. And I just kept doing what I was doing. And it just grew from there. And so anyway, the quote is, when emotions are high, logic and language are low. So in a meltdown, don't reason with them. Connect, hold space, and be. Just
That's
be.
beautiful.
So it's just a simple quote. And it was like on this dark background. I think I did it on Canva. And I put some like leaves around it, and I just posted it. And I don't know, it just resonated with so many people, because in a meltdown or big emotions, we usually add fuel to the fire. We usually say, stop being ridiculous, or if you keep going that way, you won't get your iPad, or whatever, a threat. And so it's a great reminder that most of the time, if we, keep everyone safe and the belongings around us and stuff, the furniture, if we just wait and we just hold space for those emotions to come out, it's like a wave. It will inevitably crash and it will end. And then we can talk about it. Then we can support our child. Then we can go, you know what, next time that your brother keeps taking your things without asking, let's make a plan for what you can do. Sometimes we just have to wait and let the meltdown kind of ride. We have to ride it out.
Right. Yeah.
Not reasoning, not logic, not like threats and things like that. So it's I kind of see why it really hit a lot of people.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're such an inspiration, Stephanie. Everything that you're doing in your group, like I say, I completely resonate with it. And I think us parents want to feel that connection as well. We want to be heard as well, don't we? We want someone to hold space for us. So it's a lesson for all of us. So yeah, I'm really grateful to you, one, for coming on the podcast today, but also for having your group and sharing all the content that you do, and enabling all of us as parents or educators, whatever it is that we may be doing, to be able to connect in one really lovely space that does feel really safe. Do you have anything else coming up that you want to share with us that you're doing? Any projects coming up, or events or courses?
I do. And I just want to say thank you. That was such kind words for my work and what I do. And it's nice for me to meet people who are on the same wavelength and we both get it. And I love M.Y.T.E mission and what you guys are doing. I
Thank
just
you.
think, yeah, it's a big mission and it's worth it,
Yeah.
Okay, so probably I'm thinking the easiest way for people to, if they want to dive a bit deeper or keep learning, is probably to have a look at the courses I have on my website. It's super simple. The website's just my name, stephaniepinto.com.
Mhm.
And you can find the courses section. I think at the moment we've probably got 6 or 7, and I'm adding to them all the time. And they're obviously all on emotional intelligence, but they're specific to if your child has anxiety. I have one on if your child's ADHD. One is about our own triggers if we are a yelly, snappy, shouty parent. One is on the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system. And so there's places, and there's lots online. Your work as well, incredible. The support for families and for parents and educators. I just think that at least now I'm seeing in these last few years, the world is asking for this stuff, and we really, really, really need to be prioritizing it. So a huge thank you for doing what you do and all your work.
Thank you, my lovely. Thank you so much. Well, I'm going to let you go because I know it's the start of your day today. It's the end of my day here. I'm sure the sun is shining where you are. Tell us what the weather is there in Australia.
Well, actually,
Oh,
today's not going to be super hot. It's probably going to be about 30 or so, 30 degrees. But
oh,
it is, I don't know if you can hear because I think Zoom has great background noise cancelling, but there are cicadas out in full force. Like from the
oh my
moment the sun
goodness.
comes up, the cicadas are super loud.
Oh,
And
how
when I do a
beautiful.
podcast or something, I have to make sure that I'm like, got all the settings right because it's just this like constant buzz. Anyway, so
Oh,
it's nice. It's nice.
beautiful. Lovely noise to wake up to. Well, you take care. Have a wonderful day. Thanks again for your time. I will make sure I put your website details and I link everything through when we're sharing the content so people can reach out to you. Thank you again, and I will catch up with you soon, Stephanie.
Thank you, Emma.
Take care. See you later. Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to learn more about M.Y.T.E, our M.Y.T.E program and its profound toolkit, jump over to our website and get in touch with us. We are here to support you and the children in your care.